Before the Grand Ole Opry filled living room radios, a chin-balancing kid from Maynardville, Tennessee, was learning hymns on a harmonica and dreaming of baseball stardom. Sunstroke ended that dream and gave country music its first king. Let's follow Roy Acuff from porch-light fiddles to million-dollar broadcasts and discover why, Hank Williams once said, "For drawing power in the South, it was Roy Acuff, then God." Early life and family background, 1903 to 1919. Picture this, the early 1900s in rural Tennessee, where life moved to the steady beat of farm chores amid the Appalachian Mountains' secluded valleys. For families like the Acuffs, survival meant relentless hard work, anchored firmly by deep faith and the soothing strains of music. On September 15, 1903, Roy Claxton Acuff entered the world as the third of 5 children to parents, Ida Florence Carr and Simon E. Neal Acuff. His dad juggled roles as a Baptist preacher, skilled fiddler, part-time farmer, and even local postmaster, flooding their humble home with lively, old-time melodies. Mom Ida brought the piano to life, transforming casual family get-togethers into vibrant, spur-of-the-moment concerts, neighbors popping in for soul-stirring hymns and heartfelt ballads that warmed the soul. This post-turn-of-the-century period buzzed with economic hardships. The South still reeled from Civil War-era poverty. 2 decades later, the Great Depression would strike like a gathering storm. Yet in tight-knit spots like Union County, music wasn't some fancy extra. It was essential, a tool for enduring tough times, marking joys, and forging bonds. Little Roy soaked it up like a sponge, mastering the harmonica and jaw harp from a tender age, while wowing locals with his oddball talent of balancing broomsticks or hefty farm tools right on his chin. That quirky flair screamed future showman. Rooted in Scottish-Irish folk tunes mixed with gospel fervor, these traditions sculpted his raw, emotion-packed style, perfectly timed as radio waves started carrying those authentic sounds far beyond the hills. Zooming in closer, Roy's hometown of Maynardville, a cozy nook in the Smoky Mountains, offered stunning natural vistas, clashing against daily grinds of poverty and labor. Steeped in Baptist ways, the Acuff clan drilled in strong morals and community spirit, embedding in young Roy a disciplined piety that later infused every lyric and note he delivered. Dad's preacher-musician life showed him the seamless blend of holy and everyday sounds. Sunday church hymns giving way to evening porch, fiddling sessions full of energy and stories. This hands-on exposure sparked a profound link to music as both narrative and emotional outlet, letting feelings flow freely. Roy's brothers and sisters joined these homegrown rituals, building a nurturing space that sparked creativity and mutual support. Rural isolation cut off fancy shows or theaters, so family-made music turned into the ultimate connector, schooling Roy in how a good performance could captivate and inspire crowds. Those chin-balancing stunts, they spotlighted his built-in charisma, merging athletic prowess with budding musical gifts for a magnetic appeal. On a deeper level, these early days forged unbreakable resilience. As the family weathered money woes, Roy grasped that grit, faith, and effort could conquer any hurdle, a core message that resonated through his entire legendary career. Teenage years and education, 1919 to 1925. Roy's childhood in Maynardville wasn't a walk in the park. It was tough, but those challenges forged his unbreakable character. The Acuff family shifted around before landing in Fountain City, a lively Knoxville suburb, in 1919 when Roy hit 16. At Central High School, he dove headfirst into extracurriculars, but academics took a back seat to his real shine, the sports fields. Built sturdy at around 5'10" with a fierce competitive edge, Roy dominated basketball, football, and especially baseball, where his killer pitching arm made headlines in papers like the Tennessean throughout the 1920s. They hailed him as a versatile diamond star who could dominate any position. He dabbled in the school chapel choir, honing his voice, and starred in plays, subtly revealing artistic sparks that mixed singing with dramatic flair, talents destined to amplify his future music career. Sports, though, owned his heart. Graduating in 1925, Roy snubbed a scholarship to Carson Newman University, chasing his athletic dreams instead through gritty odd jobs like sawmill work and delivery runs, all while grinding in semi-pro baseball leagues. This shift from rural quiet to suburban buzz opened Roy's world to new vibes, yet he clung to his mountain roots. His sports stardom gave him identity and drive, offsetting classroom boredom, while those side gigs built a rock-solid work ethic. It all spotlighted Roy's life contrasts. Thrilling wins on the field against job instability, molding a man ready to bounce back from any curveball and seize every chance. Baseball dreams and health crisis, 1925 to 1930. By 1929, Roy Acuff had pushed his baseball ambitions to new heights, earning a tryout spot with the Knoxville Smokies, a minor league squad affiliated with the powerhouse New York Giants. This opportunity felt like the gateway to the majors, the culmination of years spent idolizing local sports icons and sharpening his skills in high school games and semi-pro circuits. His natural talent, quick reflexes, strong arm, and unyielding drive made those big league dreams seem tantalizingly close. But fate intervened cruelly during spring training under the blistering Tennessee sun. A brutal sunstroke hit hard, causing him to collapse multiple times on the field, with dizziness, nausea, and exhaustion overwhelming his body. The episode wasn't just a temporary setback, it inflicted lasting damage, forcing doctors to sideline him permanently and shattering his professional baseball aspirations in an instant. The physical devastation snowballed into a full-blown nervous breakdown in 1930, trapping Roy in bed for agonizing months. Isolated and seething with frustration, he wrestled with the waves of disappointment from his crushed career and the relentless grip of illness. This shadowy chapter pushed his mental and emotional limits to the brink, amplifying feelings of failure and helplessness in a young man once defined by athletic vigor. Yet amid the despair, a glimmer emerged through his father's cherished fiddle records. These weren't casual listens, they were lifelines, featuring masters like Fiddle and John Carson, whose gritty, soul-stirring fiddle work captured raw emotion, and Gid Tanner, leader of the Skillet Lickers, whose upbeat, rhythmic string band style pulsed with Appalachian energy and communal spirit. Roy dove in obsessively, practicing hour after hour despite his weakened state, letting the melodies rebuild his resolve and pull him from the abyss. This shift went beyond mere distraction. It sparked an emotional renaissance where profound loss ignited a fresh sense of direction. Music became his salvation, channeling pent-up pain into purposeful expression and marking a rebirth of identity. As Roy himself pondered years later, "Put your trust in the Lord and go ahead. Worry gets you no place." This simple yet profound mantra, rooted in his Baptist upbringing, encapsulated his approach, embracing faith to convert hardship into momentum. Those grueling months honed not just his fiddle technique, but a deeper resilience, proving how personal crises can forge unbreakable determination. His admiration for local heroes had fueled baseball, but now the intricate fiddle traditions inspired a vocational pivot, blending technical mastery with heartfelt delivery. The breakdown's isolation fostered introspection, drawing on family faith to combat depression, while relentless practice restored physical coordination and mental clarity. Ultimately, this turning point highlighted humanity's remarkable ability to reinvent itself, turning vulnerability into strength and setting the stage for Roy's legendary music path. Entry into the music world, 1930 to 1932. By 1932, Roy Acuff had bounced back with fresh energy, eager to dive into music as a career despite zero formal lessons under his belt. He signed on with Dr. Howard's Medicine Show, a wandering crew hawking patent medicines, those dubious tonics claiming to fix ailments from headaches to heartaches across the rugged Tennessee-Virginia mountains. Picture these setups: half carnival spectacle, half slick sales hustle, where performers like Roy reeled in curious locals to push bottles of so-called miracle cures. To draw bigger crowds in that era's vaudeville-influenced scene, Roy donned blackface, a widespread but now profoundly controversial tactic tied to minstrel shows, sparking modern debates on racial stereotypes and cultural insensitivity in entertainment's early days. It was during these gigs that Roy crossed paths with folk legend Clarence Ashley, a masterful banjo picker and song collector whose influence proved game-changing. Ashley shared timeless gems like The House of the Rising Sun, A Haunting Tale of Downfall, and Greenback Dollar, a lively number about hard times and resilience, tracks that enriched Roy's growing songbook with story-rich ballads demanding raw, emotional punch. Without any mics to amplify his sound, Roy trained his voice to boom over rowdy audiences and outdoor chaos, crafting a commanding, resonant style that set him apart in packed venues and became a hallmark of his later success. This raw entry into showbiz sharpened Roy's stage presence, teaching him how to hook and hold attention with charisma and timing. But it also thrust him into the harsh realities of the road, endless dusty trails, fleeting crowds of farmers and miners who might cheer one night and vanish the next, and the constant grind of survival in depression-hit Appalachia. The nomadic grind built his toughness and quick adaptability, turning every performance into a lesson in endurance. On a deeper level, this chapter bridged his private healing from illness to stepping into the spotlight, where music evolved from personal therapy to a vital link for human connection and steady income. It highlighted that unbreakable spirit, how folks like Roy could pivot from rock bottom to rediscover purpose in the unlikeliest spots, fueling a career that would redefine country music. Building a band in early recordings, 1932 to 1937. Leaving the Medicine Show in 1934 opened doors for Roy Acuff to dive deeper into Knoxville's local scene, where he linked up with talented guitarist Jess Easterday on mandolin and Hawaiian steel guitarist Clell Summy. Together, they crafted the Tennessee Crackerjacks, a fresh band fusing classic Appalachian vibes with exotic Hawaiian slides for a sound that stood out in the crowded music landscape. They quickly snagged regular slots on Knoxville radio stations WROL and WNOX, broadcasting live sets that hooked listeners craving real rootsy tunes amid the Great Depression's gloom. Radio was booming back then, piping country music straight into struggling homes, offering a lifeline of hope and distraction, and Roy's raw, heartfelt delivery cut through like nothing else, building a devoted fan base with its genuine emotion. Around 1935, with bassist Red Jones joining the mix, a quick-witted announcer rechristened them the Crazy Tennesseans, a name that perfectly captured their wild, energetic flair and unconventional edge, appealing to folks tired of slick, overproduced acts. Roy's voice, laced with sincere depth and vulnerability, set him apart, drawing crowds who felt every word as if it mirrored their own hardships. Then came the game changer in 1936, a recording deal with the American Record Corporation, ARC, thrusting them into the studio for breakout tracks. The Great Speckled Bird, a stirring gospel ballad rich in church symbolism and personal devotion, showcased Roy's faith-driven lyrics, while Wabash Cannonball painted vivid pictures of roaring trains and endless journeys, evolving into his all-time signature hit that embodied American wanderlust and resilience. But success wasn't smooth. To fulfill contract quotas, the band cut some edgier, risque numbers under the alias Bang Boys, a hidden chapter revealing the music biz's ruthless side, where artists bent their principles to survive commercial pressures and avoid legal headaches. Tensions escalated over creative clashes and money woes, culminating in a bitter split from ARC in 1937. This rocky phase tested Roy's grit, exposing the mental strain of rising fame, like dodging industry traps while refining a style rooted in emotional truth rather than flashy gimmicks. Yet, it fueled his independence, sharpening his resolve and setting the stage for even bigger breakthroughs ahead. Rise to stardom at the Grand Ole Opry, 1938 to 1941. Undeterred by the ARC fallout, Roy Acuff set his sights on Nashville's Grand Ole Opry, the beating heart of country radio broadcasting from WSM station, where stars were made and rural sounds reached urban ears. His first auditions bombed hard. Opry founder George D. Hay, the solemn old judge, dismissed the group's raw edge as too unpolished for the show's growing audience. But persistence paid off when promoter J. L. Frank, a savvy industry insider, lobbied relentlessly for a redo in 1938. Roy seized the moment with a powerhouse performance of The Great Speckled Bird, a deeply symbolic gospel ballad about the church's trials, which sparked an avalanche of fan letters and telegrams praising its emotional depth. Enough to convince management to lock in the band permanently, he swiftly rebranded them the Smoky Mountain Boys, a nod to his Tennessee heritage that evoked misty Appalachian hills and authentic folk roots, strengthening their identity in a competitive scene. Lineup tweaks followed. Clell Summy stepped out, replaced by Dobro wizard Beecher Pete Kirby, better known as Bashful Brother Oswald, whose sliding steel strings added haunting, resonant layers to their sound. By 1939, the group leveled up further. Jess Easterday shifted to bass after Red Jones departed, while guitarist Lonnie "Pap" Wilson brought steady rhythms, and banjo player Rachel Veach injected lively picking, creating a tighter, more versatile ensemble that could swing from ballads to breakdowns. This evolution positioned them as serious contenders against Opry veteran Uncle Dave Macon, the banjo-slinging showman whose antics had long dominated. Roy's star rose fast as he took over hosting the Prince Albert tobacco-sponsored segment. A prime slot aired nationwide on NBC, exposing his sincere vocals to millions tuning in for weekly escapism. By the early 1940s, his earnings skyrocketed to a jaw-dropping $200,000 annually, equivalent to millions today, marking his shift from struggling artist to country powerhouse, all while staying true to his humble origins. Hollywood soon beckoned, blending his music with silver screen charm. In the 1940s Grand Ole Opry, he played himself in a feel-good showcase of Nashville talent. 1943's Oh My Darling Clementine cast him as a melodic sheriff in a Western tale, and 1946's Night Train to Memphis featured him crooning hits amid dramatic plots. Meanwhile, he hit the road with Macon for massive tent tours across the Southeast, packing in thousands seeking solace through genuine mountain music during World War II's rationing, drafts, and uncertainties, performances that lifted spirits with nostalgic fiddles and heartfelt lyrics. Roy's climb wasn't just about hits. It showcased his knack for humanizing country music, stripping away pretense to deliver raw emotion that resonated universally. Despite rejections highlighting radio's cutthroat world, Frank's push and fan outpour proved talent could triumph. Band changes amplified their authenticity, rivaling icons like Macon, while the NBC gig and soaring pay reflected broad appeal. Films extended his reach, portraying relatable heroes, and wartime tours connected deeply with anxious crowds, all while Roy handled fame's demands with quiet humility, rooted in his faith and roots, proving emotional realism could conquer spectacle. Business innovations and wartime contributions, 1942 to 1946. 1942 stood out as a pivotal year for Roy Acuff when he teamed up with seasoned songwriter Fred Rose to launch Acuff Rose Publishing, marking Nashville's inaugural dedicated country music publishing house and reshaping the industry's landscape. This innovative move provided a vital platform for songwriters, shielding them from exploitative deals and empowering them to retain control over their work while signing breakout stars like Hank Williams, who in 1952 famously declared, "For drawing power in the South, it was Roy Acuff, then God." The company's breakthrough came in 1950 with Patti Page's smash rendition of Tennessee Waltz, a crossover hit that sold millions and solidified Acuff Rose's dominance in nurturing timeless country anthems. On a personal front, 1943 brought Roy into the folds of the East Nashville Freemasonic Lodge number 560, where he was initiated as an entered apprentice and later advanced to Master Mason, committing to a lifelong affiliation that emphasized brotherhood, charity, and moral integrity, principles that mirrored his own community-driven ethos and supported his quiet, philanthropic endeavors. However, challenges arose that same year when Tennessee Governor Prentice Cooper flatly rejected an invitation to an Opry celebration for its national broadcast debut, lambasting country music as disgracing the state and deeming it lowbrow entertainment unfit for his presence. Deeply offended, Roy shot back publicly, defending the genre's cultural value and the hard-working folks it represented, a clash that exposed deep-seated class divisions in how elite society viewed rural working-class art forms and ignited his simmering interest in politics. Delving into this era, Acuff Rose's creation not only revolutionized publishing by centralizing operations in Nashville, but also amplified songwriter royalties and fostered emerging talents through fair contracts, demonstrating Roy's sharp business savvy in an era dominated by New York and Los Angeles firms. His Masonic involvement reinforced commitments to fraternal support and ethical living, aligning seamlessly with his offstage generosity. The Cooper snub highlighted societal prejudices against country music's authenticity, prompting Roy's vocal rebuttal that foreshadowed his 1948 gubernatorial bid. Amid World War II's chaos, Roy's extensive tours to U.S. military bases, including those in Panama as part of the Camel Caravan Initiative, delivered uplifting performances blending patriotic fervor with familiar tunes, offering soldiers a slice of home and boosting morale during global uncertainty. These multifaceted roles, innovative entrepreneur, dedicated community pillar, and fierce advocate, amplified country music's emotional resonance and cultural footprint in trying times, showcasing Roy's profound influence beyond the stage. Disputes, Political Run, and Adaptation, 1946 to 1950s. Tensions reached a breaking point in 1946 when Roy Acuff walked away from the Grand Ole Opry, frustrated by a heated salary dispute that left him feeling undervalued, despite his massive stardom and the crowds he drew weekly. This exit mirrored broader post-war economic pressures, where inflation squeezed performers while management held firm on pay, highlighting the industry's exploitative side for even top acts like Roy. But he made a triumphant return in 1947, stepping back into the spotlight and laying down a fresh, definitive version of Wabash Cannonball, featuring his own lead vocals, a revamped take that amplified its train whistle energy and cemented it as an enduring classic, reaffirming his irreplaceable role in country music. Spurred by the lingering sting of Governor Prentice Cooper's earlier snub and fears from Memphis Democratic powerhouse E.H. Crump about Roy's widespread appeal, he launched a bold 1948 gubernatorial bid as a Republican. Campaigning innovatively with his Smoky Mountain Boys band, Roy packed rallies with thousands, blending speeches on rural issues with live performances that electrified voters. Yet, he fell short against Democrat Gordon Browning, capturing just 33% to Browning's 67%, a crushing loss that exposed the stark gap between entertainment charisma and political machinery, humbling Roy while underscoring celebrity limits in governance. From 1948 to 1963, he diversified by purchasing Dunbar Cave near Clarksville, transforming the historic site into a popular recreational venue with dances, events, and even a skating rink, showcasing his entrepreneurial side beyond music. In 1951, he dropped his debut album, Songs of the Smoky Mountains, a collection preserving his Appalachian roots through heartfelt tracks, and starred in the film Home in San Antone, keeping his face on screens amid Hollywood's B-movie wave. The 1950s shifted gears harshly as rock and roll's electric surge and smoother Nashville sounds from stars like Eddie Arnold and Ernest Tubb eclipsed Roy's traditional fiddle-driven style, leading to gradual sales slumps. By the 1960s, his records moved fewer units, reflecting changing tastes, but his impact shone through in 1962 when he became the first living inductee into the Country Music Hall of Fame, a prestigious nod validating decades of innovation and authenticity. This stretch of Roy's career revealed his remarkable adaptability, rebounding from disputes, pivoting to business and politics, and weathering genre evolution, all while grappling with the emotional weight of fading relevance as a purist in a modernizing world, yet securing a legacy that outlasted trends. Near-death experience and career reflection, 1960s. In 1965, a devastating car accident just outside Sparta, Tennessee, brought Roy Acuff perilously close to the end of his road. Driving his Cadillac, Roy collided head-on with another vehicle, suffering severe injuries including multiple broken ribs, a shattered collarbone, and a fractured pelvis that required extensive hospitalization and recovery. His bandmate, steel guitarist Shot Jackson, was also badly hurt in the crash, which stemmed from a momentary lapse on a winding rural highway. The ordeal shook Roy to his core, forcing him to confront life's sudden fragility and the toll of decades on the road, haunting thoughts that led him to seriously consider retirement at age 62, weighing the risks against his passion. Though he stepped back from grueling nationwide tours to protect his health and savor quieter moments, Roy remained a steadfast fixture at the Grand Ole Opry, performing regularly and mentoring younger artists. This pivot signaled a deliberate shift from high-octane shows to safeguarding his legacy, prioritizing consistent Opry appearances that kept his music alive for fans. The accident amplified his vulnerabilities, intensifying his gratitude for family bonds and Baptist faith as anchors amid uncertainty, ushering in a more reflective career chapter focused on depth over demands. Revival and Presidential Encounter, 1970s. The folk revival sparked new life for Roy Acuff in 1972 through his standout collaboration on the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band's groundbreaking album, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? Joining forces with younger musicians like Earl Scruggs and Doc Watson, Roy delivered deeply emotional performances on tracks like I Saw the Light and The Precious Jewel, his quivering voice and fiddle work evoking timeless faith and loss, effectively bridging old-time country with the emerging folk rock scene, and reintroducing his authentic style to a fresh generation of listeners hungry for roots music continuity. 2 years later, in 1974, the Grand Ole Opry relocated to its sparkling new home at Opryland, USA, and Roy kicked off the inaugural show with a poignant set. His iconic 1930s image flashed large on screens for nostalgic impact. The highlight? He playfully taught President Richard Nixon yo-yo tricks, a nod to Roy's childhood balancing acts right on stage, then gently persuaded the embattled leader to tickle the ivories on a few tunes. This whimsical exchange, captured amid the dark cloud of Watergate scandals, lightened the national mood, humanizing Nixon as approachable and spotlighting Roy's effortless charm as a cultural bridge builder who seamlessly mixed entertainment with political moments, solidifying his ambassador status in American music history. Personal life and emotional depth. Roy Acuff's personal life brought rich human depth to his larger-than-life public image as the king of country music. On December 24, 1936, he tied the knot with Mildred Louise Douglas in a quiet ceremony in Middlesboro, Kentucky, marking the start of a partnership that grounded him through decades of fame. Together they raised a son, Roy Neal Acuff Jr., born in 1943, who dabbled in the music world under the name Roy Acuff Jr., releasing a few singles in the 1960s before stepping away from the spotlight. They also had a daughter, Thelma, whose background remains shrouded in mystery. Some historical accounts suggest she was adopted, while others imply ties to a possible earlier marriage. But Roy kept these details fiercely private, shielding his family from public scrutiny. Mildred served as his unwavering anchor, expertly managing their home life and finances, while Roy crisscrossed the country on endless tours, allowing him to pour his energy into performances without domestic worries. Their enduring bond weathered numerous challenges, including the demanding 1949 overseas tour to entertain U.S. troops, where Thelma accompanied her father, creating precious bonding moments amid separations and strengthening their family ties during his absences. Tragedy hit hard on June 17, 1981, when Mildred passed away at 72 from health complications, leaving Roy utterly devastated at age 78. In his grief, he relocated to a modest cottage right on the Opryland grounds, continuing daily Opry shows but embracing simple, grounding chores like stocking vending machines and refrigerators, a stark, touching contrast for a man once commanding massive stages, revealing how routine became his solace in mourning. Opry staffers from that era remember Roy's quiet dignity in those later years, as he warmly chatted with fans backstage, regaling them with vivid tales of his early Knoxville days filled with sports dreams and family fiddling sessions. One lesser-known story from his medicine show era captures his early magnetism. During a fierce storm, Roy belted out songs undeterred, his powerful voice piercing the downpour, captivating a drenched crowd who stayed and bought every tonic bottle despite the weather. In a poignant 1970s interview, Roy opened up about his 1930 nervous breakdown, crediting it for instilling humility. Don't be a blueprint, be an original. These intimate glimpses peel back the legend, exposing a man who battled personal demons like illness and loss, treasured family above all, and discovered profound joy in life's unassuming moments, making his story all the more relatable and inspiring. Controversies and historical debates. Controversies added intriguing layers to Roy Acuff's seemingly saintly reputation, challenging the polished image of the king of country music. His 1932 stint in Dr. Hauer's medicine show, where he performed in blackface to draw crowds, mirrored the racial insensitivities rampant in Depression-era entertainment, a practice now condemned for reinforcing harmful stereotypes and drawing from minstrel show legacies that tainted early vaudeville. Historians still argue over whether it was pure survival in a cutthroat gig economy or unwitting complicity in systemic bias. Roy himself stayed silent on the matter publicly, yet it spotlights country music's complicated origins, intertwined with minstrel traditions that borrowed heavily from African American culture while often mocking it. The 1946 Grand Ole Opry walkout ignited another storm. Roy, at the peak of fame, demanded fairer pay amid skyrocketing post-war inflation and rising living costs, viewing management's stance as outright exploitation of loyal artists. Opry bosses branded it disloyalty from a star they relied on, but his swift 1947 return underscored their codependence as the show needed his draw to thrive, revealing deep labor frictions in the budding Nashville industry where performers fought for rights against corporate control. Politically, Roy's 1948 Republican run for Tennessee governor fueled heated debates. Was it a heartfelt push to serve everyday folks, or petty payback for Governor Prentice Cooper's earlier Opry snub? Detractors dismissed it as a flashy celebrity gimmick leveraging fame over policy depth, while fans praised his populist outsider vibe, taking on entrenched Democratic machines like E.H. Crump's Memphis Network, and highlighting how entertainers could disrupt traditional politics. Even his 1943 entry into East Nashville Freemasonry drew conservative side-eyes, seen by some as secretive elitism clashing with evangelical norms, though it perfectly matched Roy's emphasis on community brotherhood, charity, and moral values that guided his philanthropy. These layered controversies depict Roy not as an untarnished hero, but a complex product of his era, deeply traditional in his mountain roots, yet forward-thinking and pushing country music toward legitimacy and respect. Legacy and final years, 1980s to 1992. Roy's impact rippled far beyond his lifetime. He modernized country, shifting from band-focused hoedowns to singer-driven narratives, paving the way for stars like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash. Acuff Rose built Nashville's publishing empire, nurturing songwriters and fueling the music city's boom. Culturally, he preserved Appalachian heritage while globalizing it. Tours to military bases in 1949 and beyond introduced troops to home comforts. Politically, his run inspired future celebrity candidates. Today, his story teaches resilience. From Sunstroke's despair to Hall of Fame glory, he embodied the American dream's grit. In an age of polished pop, Roy reminds us of authenticity's power. What we learn is that true greatness comes from staying true to your roots, embracing flaws, and connecting heart to heart. Roy Acuff passed on November the 23rd, 1992, at 89, from congestive heart failure in Nashville, buried at Spring Hill Cemetery. Honors poured in, museums in his name, a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame, the National Medal of Arts in 1991. But his real legacy? The emotional threads he wove, songs of loss, faith, and joy that still comfort. He showed life's contradictions, triumph amid pain, fame with humility. In the end, Roy wasn't just a king, he was profoundly human, leaving us thoughtful about our own journeys. Reflecting deeply on his enduring influence, Roy's innovations in country music structure influenced generations, establishing Nashville as an industry hub through Acuff Rose. His cultural preservation efforts globalized regional sounds, while political forays set precedents for entertainer involvement. In later years, accolades like the 1991 National Medal of Arts affirmed his stature. His death in 1992 closed an era, but his legacy of authenticity and resilience continues to inspire, emphasizing the profound humanity in artistic achievement. Roy Acuff proved that authenticity outlasts every trend. If his story of sunstroke, medicine shows, and Opry glory spoke to you, share this video and keep those mountain songs alive. Drop a comment about your favorite Acuff tune and join us next video for more voices that shaped America's soundtrack.